So what to do? Chop some broccoli. If I hit tab, I want it to go to the next text field. How do we do that? First of all, I'm gonna get in here, so I'm gonna quit out of this and debug it. Again, I'm gonna go jump to the end and go in reverse, and then I'm gonna jump into this key press handler, which is here. I'm gonna reverse time until I hit that line, and then I'm on this text field, and I'm getting a tab character here for the key press. So what I could say is something like, hey, if the event key is the tab character, then I want to yield focus maybe. And then let the framework decide to give the focus to someone else. So yeah, let's do that. Currently, the way we know who has focus is we just have a global variable, which I don't like at the moment, but we'll later change it to be maybe like an instance variable of the UI engine or something like that. But for now, it's a global variable called focus element. And when you call focus on some UI element, all it does is set that focus element to the element that you've prescribed. Now I'm gonna add a yield focus. How do you yield focus? What I'm thinking is we're gonna do this tree walk. We can do this. We can do something like, I have a UI tree, which it actually may be more complicated and nested, maybe like this. Okay, so let's say currently it's gonna, like, let's say focused element is this guy. Okay, this guy has the focus, but now it wants to yield focus, so it's gonna call the yield focus function. Now I have set it up in the framework so that each child can access its parent, and each parent can also access its children. There's a two-way link. So this is like, so what I could do, if this child wants to yield focus, it could actually go up to the parent and have the parent traverse the tree, but starting at itself, like starting the traversal here, and say, hey, do you want focus? And then, but this guy may say, I don't need focus. I'm not a text element, or I'm not an element that needs input, so no. And then if it says no, it'll keep going to the next one. And then this one will either say, yeah, I want the focus, or no. But if it has children, it might defer it to the children and ask each child, hey, do you want the focus or not? So that's what I'm thinking. This does mean that for elements that want focus, they'll have to implement a focus function method. So let me sketch this out. So element dot parent. I'm just gonna assume, or maybe like if has atar parent. Focus next element. from. I'm going to focus the next element within this parent, starting from that element. Okay. If it doesn't even have a parent, there's nothing to do, because that means this element is already the root element, and then there's no one else to yield to. If you are the root element, there's no other element that is not inside of you. So now I need to write this function. So we're gonna assume the container has children. If not has a tar container children, we're just gonna do nothing. I can do index of the child. So we're gonna start at the next index after this one. So for I in range of index until the length of the children. Actually index plus 1. Then we're gonna say focus, I'll call this from child. Call this child equals container children index I. Recursively call this so that in our picture, if this was the focus one and this one wants to yield it, and then we're gonna call focus element from focus next element from on this, comma this, and then we're gonna recursively call this, but starting at this. So we're gonna say focus next element from this guy, starting from none, and maybe none will tell it to start from its first child. Maybe each element has a method that it has to implement, which can override this function or something. Not sure. Or this function just defers to that method if that element has implemented it. It might be easier if I go to the perspective of the element that's getting the focus. So if I were to add a method here to say, hey, get maybe focus. What would be a good name for this method? Want focus, get focus. Get focus is basically the framework is telling you, hey, you can have the focus if you want. Maybe call it receive focus. Receive focus might be more proper noun, proper, not noun, but proper name for this. Receive focus or get focus. Grant focus, but you're not the grantor. The framework is granting you the focus, so I don't want to call it grant focus. So receive focus it is. So if they call receive focus on you, you can say true. You can return true. Then you would have the focus, or you can return false. Then they would skip you and then move on to the next thing, which may or may not want the focus. Maybe I call this want focus because you haven't received it yet. Ultimately, you're gonna receive it when that happens. That's when you actually receive it. So you haven't received it. So do you want focus? Okay. And you can return true if you want focus. Oh, wait a minute. For containers, it might be different. Another design decision I could make is if you have a container and you got some UI elements within you, yeah, and this maps to this maps to this, etc. This maps to this, etc. I guess what I'm saying is, do I want to allow for multiple elements to have focus? Like, if this is a text field, for example, we're going to focus on it, so it has to focus. Do we want its parent to also be able to have focus? Probably not. I just want to keep it simple and say only one element in the whole app can have focus. Actually, the containers don't necessarily have to do anything, because I have access to the children of all the containers. I can just go access the children and then ask each individual child whether it wants focus or not. So I think that's what I'm gonna do. So here I'm gonna say if from child, I'm gonna do this. Start index is gonna be this plus 1. Else start index is 0. If has atar want focus and child want focus, then he's got the focus. We're done. And then we're gonna exit out of here. Else we're gonna recursively call this on the child in the case that this child also has children of its own. And that will allow us to go through its children. If it has no children, this does nothing due to that. If it does have children, it'll start at index 0 and go through all of its children, and then ask each of them whether they want focus or not. Oh, if this yielded an actual find, we want to stop the rest of the process. So I want this function to return a boolean. So here is going to return false. Here is going to return true. Here is going to return if you found someone, then we're just going to return true. Yeah, like you found something to give the focus to, so we're gonna return and get out of this for loop, so that the remaining children don't get a chance to also grab the focus. This maybe will work. Hello, tap. Ah, that didn't work. All right, let's debug this. Go back to the end. I might just jump to yield focus. Okay. Yield focus. This is the first text field. It has the word hello in it. And yeah, we're gonna call yield focus on it. Let's see what happened. Okay, start index is 2. Its container is this vertical panel. And the vertical panel has a label, a text field, another label. So it's starting at index 2, which means it's gonna first ask this label, which is gonna be the child. Yeah, the child. We're gonna say, hey, do you want focus? It doesn't even have a want focus method, so we're gonna skip it. Oh, it's still called this on it. Oh, that's correct actually. It should do that. But it has no children, so it should return false. Right, it returned false, so we go back up to the top of the loop, and now our child is the second text field. Here, it should focus the child and return true. I think it has worked. There it is. Focused element is pointing to the second text field now, so that has actually worked. The only thing that didn't work is we want the element that has focus to draw itself. So this is actually drawing. We do need to draw ourselves without focus. So if I don't have focus, I'm just gonna draw the text, the display text, with no cursor display. So I should draw myself without the cursor display. But the thing that did not happen is the redrawing of the element that just got focused. So perhaps what I can do is when you focus on the element, we should draw it. The only thing is there's a problem with that. And yeah, initially I called focus on this field. And at this point, the field is not ready to be drawn yet because there's a layout process that has to happen before it can be drawn. Perhaps what I can do is just, I think I check if it's ready to be drawn first. And I think I actually have a function that will do that for is placed. That's what it's called. So if you've been placed, then you are ready to be drawn. So if I do that, oh yes, it works. Oh, that is awesome. Now if I tap again, I wanted to go back to the top, and that doesn't happen right now, so we need to fix this code to make it happen. So how can we do that? I suppose what we can do is if we found someone that wanted the focus, if we gave someone the focus, then nothing needs to be done. But if we did not give someone the focus, we're actually gonna do start from the root element. Yeah, we're gonna start from the top, except the root element is at the moment not available as a global variable. Let's just change that. Yeah, I'm gonna say global root equals root element. This is when we initialize the app. The root element is passed in. We're just gonna put it into this global. And now we have access to that. So let's see if this works. Oh, it works! There. I want to chop some broccoli many times. Great, and I can tap